Good day and welcome to another lecture on web application development, and today we are going to be looking at inbuilt functions. And what are inbuilt functions? Inbuilt functions are functions that comes with JavaScript. You do not need to write the code yourself. Take for instance, you are looking for square root of a number. You can ask JavaScript to give you the square root of the number without typing the code on your own. All you need to do is to call the function that can do that for you. Okay, then there are many more inbuilt functions we are going to be looking at, and I'm going to be supplying you material that contains most of the inbuilt functions that you are going to be using. Although you must also be aware of the fact that some functions are peculiar to some data type and not found in another data type. Let me give you a simple scenario here. If you go back to the course outline, our course contents, okay, let's scroll down. We are coming back to JavaScript objects. Now remember that string is a data type, and under here we have string. So I would recommend that you go through string in this material. Now if you look at all of these character art, character code art, contact, index of, last name, all of these are inbuilt functions that can only be applied to string. Okay, you want to split, you want to slice, so you have a collection of all of those, and I'm going to be making use of a few among them to show you how to work with the rest. Okay, then if you look at the lowercase to upper, all of this we are going to be looking at, but you should know at the back of your mind that these functions can be applied only to a string data type. Then if you scroll down once again to the part where we have an array, then you will find out that we also have some inbuilt functions that can only be found on an array data type. Hope you understand. So what is the bottom line? The bottom line here is inbuilt functions helps you to solve some problem quickly, but you can only use some functions on a particular data type, whereas you can't. Take for instance, you may not get the opportunity of pushing an item to a string, but you have the opportunity to push an item into an array. So all of this we are going to be checking one after the other. But before we proceed on our discussion on inbuilt functions, let me quickly ask you how you do on my assignment given to you in my last lecture. Okay, I hope you are able to do it quick. Fine, but if not, let's quickly do it together. Okay, so I ask you to write a function that can sum up some information and some data we have in the array for you. Okay, and let's say we have something like this. I'm creating a global variable in this case because it's done outside of the scope of a function, and let's call this array, let us call it x, as I given to you in the last example, and I say it contains 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, and like that. Then you really want to sum it up all together. 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. That was the, and I said you can do this with the help of your for loop. That is the int I gave to you. So let's try it together. Remember that we are now building functions for almost all of our functionalities. So everything you want to do, build function for it, call it in the main function and make use of it. That's the idea, and that's what we are going to be doing. I hope you understand. So as from now henceforth, anything you want to do in JavaScript, build a function for it. The advantage of building a function for it is you can always call the function more than once, and by doing so you save yourself from repeating yourself. Okay, so that's one of the acronyms we follow in programming. We call it DRY, D-R-Y, meaning don't repeat yourself. Okay, and one of the way not to avoid repeating yourself is by making use of a function. So now I'm going to continue by creating a function. Okay, and I'm going to give my function a name, sum array, because I really want to sum the array. So by now you must understand that the name of your function should at least to some extent describe what the function is going to be doing, such that by looking at the name alone will give anybody reading your code some idea on what exactly the function is to complete. Okay, so I will continue. Okay, so I want to sum up the function what I have inside x, and I said you can make use of your for loop. So for I equals to 0, because I'm starting all the way from index 0, I less than or equals to x, X is an array, so I'm calling a property on the array, which is length. And remember, length is going to help me to find how many elements this have. And right now it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. But mind you, the first element starts from index 0, so I do not need the fifth element. I can only get across 4. I mean, I can only have access to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So by accessing the fifth one, you get an error. So for that reason, I'm going to put -1 over here, put a semicolon, then put my x++, and this is how to write your for loop. Okay, so at this point in time, I want to begin to do my summation, but I'm going to create a local variable that will be sum, and I'm initializing it to be 0, meaning that sum is 0 initially. Okay, so at this point in time, I can begin to say sum plus equals to whatever I have at index I of the element of the element, something like that. So please take a very good look at it once again. Let's hit Ctrl S to save our equals to x. So please look at it very well. Initially, when you start this for loop, I is going to be 0. So when 0 is here, x at index 0 is going to be what? It's going to be 4. Okay, so plus equals to means whatever that is inside sum added together with x at index 0. Good for me. X at index 0 is 4. Why is sum initially as 0? So right now it will now be 0 plus 4. So 4 would now be saved in sum. Okay, and by the time I run on the second cycle, then I must have changed to 1. So x at index 1 is 5. So it will now be 5 plus whatever you have in sum already, which is 4. Okay, so it will be 5 plus 4, 9, and so it continues. And at the end of the day, I want to return out whatever that is inside sum, and that of course is my final answer. Okay, so I'm going to hit on Ctrl S to save my job, coming straight back to main, which of course is my program entry point. Okay, then I'm going to call sum array. Okay, by calling the function, remember it's going to return for me the answer, which of course is sum. So you can just do the console.log of whatever it returned out for you. Console.log. Then put this in parentheses. Oops. So what does this mean to you? Sum array will be called on, and once it's called on, it's going to return sum for you. Whatever it's returned for you will then be the input to console.log. Console.log will get that input and write it out to the console for you. Okay, so first I'm going to run the code, look at the result, then I'm going to debug it for you so that you can have a better look at it. Okay, so right now I'm going to hit on CLS to clear the screen. Okay, so I am going to use my node to run array.js, but first let us do our own manual calculation. Going back to 4 plus 5, 9, then 9 plus 6, that's 15, 15 plus 7, that is 22, then 22 plus 8, that is 22 plus 8, that should now be 30. Okay, so let's run the code. Okay, we have an error on line. Okay, this error is coming all the way from loader.js, which of course is outside of the scope of our array.js, but you must understand that the error is indeed coming all the way from your file. Okay, now look at this, cannot find the module array.js. Now look at it, we have array, but unfortunately the array.j we are currently working in, our working directory right now is in lecture 10, so we need to extract into the JS folder because before we can locate this file. So once again, I'm going to hit on CLS to clear my screen, then make use of CD to change the directory to JS folder, then I can now run the code again. Okay, now this is my answer 30, which of course is very correct. Then I have another console coming out there giving me 4. That I think is coming where. Okay, I think, okay, this is it. So let me hit the comment. So control it. Now let me quickly run it for you in the debug mode so that you can get a chance to understand it even better than before. Okay. Okay, still not, that's not yet started debugging, taking a little time. If you experience this, you can just stop it and try to attach the debugger again. Select your Node.js. Okay, the debugger has been attached. So I'm going to hit on step into to step into the code. It's on step into again. Now sum array is called. Then I need to step over. You will observe here that sum equals to 0, I equals to 0. Okay. Then I'm going to step over. I'm inside the for loop now. I'm about to run line 25 of my code. I'm going to hit it again. Now I've run the line 25 of my code, and you observe now that sum equals to 4. That's good. And let me scroll up a bit so that you can, let me collapse this once. I want you to be looking at S along. So I'm going to step over again. So you observe now that my high is 1, it's no longer 0. Okay, so now I'm accessing the index 1, which of course is 5. So sum at this point is going to be 9, and like that it continues. So that was the assignment I gave to you, and I hope by debugging it you have a better chance to see how the computer is executing your code. Now it is 22, so about to sum the last one. Now it is 30. So at this point in time I can now add to the line 27, which is going to return the summation. Now check it out, it's returning 30. 30 will then be an input to console.log. Check it out. So you can see I'm back to console.log. So 30 is going to be an input to console.log, and if you execute now, you get it outputted out. You can see it over here. So that is the solution to this assignment I gave to you. So that is going to be, we're going to put a pause to function and array for now. Of course we are still going to revisit it because I want you to read on multi-dimensional array in JavaScript, an array that can have let's say 2 or 3 rows, or up here on the and 2 or 3 columns. Hope you understand. So at the end of the day, you might challenge yourself by doing matrices summation, okay, which of course is one of the challenging programmers face. Imagine if you're asked to build a website where they can be doing some matrices and determination calculation on the website, okay? So you don't want to say that, no, I don't know the math. No, you don't need to write the math, okay? Just understand multi-dimensional array, and that is going to be an edge for you, okay? So at this point, I will move to today's work, which of course is inbuilt array. Inbuilt function. So let's head straight back down to inbuilt function. And of course we cannot be looking at all the inbuilt functions, but I can assure you that if you take your time to study this very well, you will quickly get even more beautiful understanding about what it is that is called inbuilt function. So I'm moving on to array now. So let us look at how to make use of these functions, okay? So for that, I'm going to quickly let me stop the debugging because I'm done with it. So heading straight back to, then I'm going to create another file in my JS folder. This I can call inbuilt function, okay, .js. Do not forget to put the .js over here, okay? So remember, there are two types of function: a user-defined function and inbuilt function. Example of user-defined functions are the functions you created yourself. For example, if you type function and you want to call this function, let's call it get max. That's the name of the function, okay? Then you open your opening and curly braces, opening and close curly braces. So get max is a function, okay? and it is an example of a user defined function. Why? Because you created this function yourself. So now we want to look at functions you don't create yourself. You just want to make use of them. You do not have all the time in the world to start creating all the functions you need, and that's why you must understand the function that comes out of the engine for you. Okay, so but before then, since the functions I will be looking at are peculiar to an array, so I'm going to create an array, and over here I'm creating an array for x, and of course do not forget the var keyword. Then I am putting some information here. Good. Then I'm going to also create another for y. Then I'm adding some information on this as well. Good. So altogether I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items located in. Okay. So let's say you are interested in, somebody asks you to find the maximum number, or let's say the highest number within this. You can call on x dot sort. So look at this sort x to determine the order of the element. It is expected to return a negative value if the first argument is less than or blah blah blah. But now look at this sort very well. It helps you to sort an array. Okay, so but this is a function that expects you to supply a parameter of function that we do the comparison for us. Okay, so we need to do this if you really want to sort. So function, let's create sort function. I'm just giving it that name. A and B are the two parameters. So you would now say return A minus B. Come back here and call on sort. That means you want to put sort function here. Let's sorted x equals to, so if it is well sorted, we got a new array called sorted s. Then you want to log it out, Ctrl S to save your job. So I want to run it. Now look at it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You will observe that initially I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it is already sorted from what I entered, but let's quickly change this to 10. Try it remain unsorted, this to maybe 40, and this to 30. So if you look at it very well, it is no longer sorted, isn't it? So I'm hitting on CLS, and if you run it, now we have 4, 6, 8, 10, 30, 40. Now you see that it is now sorted from ascending to descending order. So the dot sort is the function that is helping me to sort, but you need to pass in a function as a parameter. This function is going to do the comparison of the first and second, and it will return for you a positive number if A is greater than B, a negative number if it is not otherwise, something like that. But let's say you are interested in arranging it from descending to ascending, and that means you can put your B here and put your A here and hit on Ctrl S to save your job. So if you run this code again, now you see that it has now been arranged in as descending to as so that is it. So let's say somebody now asks you to give him, let's say you are asked to supply the maximum number, and you are pretty sure that you arrange it in descending to ascending order. So that means the deed is done. All you need to do at this point is just to return, because you will observe here when I arrange it from descending to ascending, the highest number is the first one after it has been arranged. So in that case, I can just return out my sorted x. The element at index 0 is the highest number, while the element at index 1 are the last one is the minimum number, something like that. So at this point I want to return the main. Okay, so the main is this last one here, and remember I can get this last one if I call on, and look at it very well, I will not call on this first index, I will call on the last index, and the last index is 0 1 2 3 4 5. So I can just put 5 here, but that one will look static, it will not be dynamic. What if the items are more than 5? You have to be changing it every now and then. So in that case, what I will just put here is I'm going to put maybe x or sorted s dot length. Remember, this is going to give me the entire length, which is the number of items it contains, and it contains 1 2 3 4 5 6. But unfortunately we are starting from 0, so you will not forget to minus 1, and you hit on Ctrl S to save your job. So if I now call on get mean, then this is going to give me the minimum number. And sorry please, I am so at this point in time I'm no longer interested in logging out the sorted item. I am just returning it. Okay, so this function called get mass is returning for me the highest number. This one called get mean is returning for me the lowest number, and it's left to you to do whatever you want with the return value. But in my case, I will just be delighted to log it out to the screen for you to see. So I'm going to hit on console.log and pump the do my function calling inside of the console.log. So that means whatever the two functions return, the console.log is there, it got me covered, is there to give me the answer. So the maximum number is 40 and the minimum number is 4. And now this is here is another tips for you to quickly get. Now somebody asked me to return out, somebody is asking you to give out the highest and the lowest number, and look at the idea. The idea is we first sort it and we return out the answer. But this might be an overkill. Just because you are looking for the highest number doesn't mean you have to begin by arranging every item, most especially when you are just interested in only the maximum number. You do not need to start arranging. Imagine somebody asking you to bring out everybody the highest score in mathematics. Okay, then you ask all of them to line up according to their score. You could have just called the person who has the highest mark to come out instead of arranging them. The stress of arranging them before you now take the first person out, you are losing some computational time and power. Okay, so but let's say you are interested not only in the first person but also the middle, the second to the last, then you can now begin to do all the arrangement because you want to get so many data. So that topic I just branched into right now is what we call data structure and algorithm design, where you are mostly interested in getting problem solved as quickly as possible without wasting computational time and space, something like that. So now what did you just learn in this operation? You learn how to arrange elements of an array using sort by supplying a function called sort function. Okay, then you also learn how to dynamically get the total number of elements contained in an array by using that array dot length, because the length over here is a property that will reveal to you the number of items contained in the sorted X. Okay, so that is one example of inbuilt function. But let us look at another example of inbuilt function. It's still on array. Now we have push and we have pop. So let us quickly talk about push and pop. Okay, so let's say you are interested in adding some items into X after it has already been created. There is 8 here, but you are interested in adding something else to it. Then you can do something like this. You can say x.push. Okay, then you put the number you want to add there, and by now if you do your console.log, and you said you want to log out X, be rest assured that X will no longer stop at 8, but it will also include 56, just because you are able to push 56 into the collection. And I'm going to run the code just to quickly show you that it works as expected. Now look at it. This is it. You can see that 56 is now included, and in fact the highest number is now 56, just because it has now been included. Then what about pop? Let us look, but I want you to observe something. When you make use of push, it does indeed push the number 56 into the array, but it pushed it at the end of the array, not at the beginning of the array. What if you have a challenge to push it at the beginning of the array and not at the end of the array? That is not so difficult. All you need to do is to call on X once again, but this time around you will not going to be using push, rather you're going to use onShift. And onShift indeed is going to add the element to insert at the start of the array. So it's going to be inserting this element, let me put 78, but it's going to be at the beginning of the array, as opposed to push that puts it at the end of the array. So I'm going to run the code again. Now let you check it out. 78 does comes at the end. Okay, moving on further, let's quickly do for Y, but at this point in time we want to test pop. So what does pop means to you? Pop is going to give you an item out of the item in the collection, but where will it be removing? It's going to be removing it, and let me quickly share this with you. If you call on y.pop, pop is going to remove the last element from an array and return it, okay, meaning that it's going to be removing these three, okay. And if you call on pop, you do not need to supply any parameter, but you must realize that anytime you are calling on a function, you must always remember to put the opening and the closing brackets over there, okay. Some function requires that you supply parameter, like that of push, and some function like that of pop requires no parameter. I hope you understand. So pop is going to return value to you, unlike these two that does not return any value. The value it returns to you can be saved wherever you want it. In my case, I am saving it inside W, and for you to be really sure, I can now do my console.logout. I'm going to use string interpolation, and I will say W equals to, then I will not forget my $sign, open my opening and close curly braces, and put W there. And remember, W is what you pop out of Y. Haven't popped a value out of Y, can I now get a chance to look at my Y? Does Y still contain what has been popped out, or it no longer contains what has been popped out? So I'm interested in seeing that too. Just because I really want to focus on what I have just done right now, I'm going to x-ray to my main over here and comment out what I have done before so that I can focus. At this point, I'm going to hit Ctrl S to save my job, S straight to the browser, to the terminal, hit on CLS to clear the screen, and up arrow key to run the code once again. Now check it out. W is popped out, 3 is popped out, and it's saved inside W. Then look at your Y. Your Y, 3 is the last element at the collection, and that is the reason why it was popped out. And after it has been popped out, does Y now contain that number, or it no longer contains it? I decided to log out Y for you so that it can answer that question, okay. So if you now look at our Y, you will discover that Y now stop at 4. It no longer includes 3. I hope you understand. That is to tell you that why a number has successfully been popped out of the array, and for that reason it is no longer part of the array. But for the number not to be totally get destroyed, and I won't have access to it again, I decided to save it inside W in case I ever need it again. It is temporarily saved, okay. So having said that, how then do you now really pop out some value, but not at the end of the array? You want it to be popped out at the beginning of the array, in just the way onShift was adding an element at the beginning of the array, okay. Now let us look at the counterpart of the pop. Okay, so at this point I want to pop out, not at the end but at the beginning. Okay, all you need to do is just to change this pop to shift, and it will of course do the magic for you. Okay, so I am now shifting. So shifting means of course I want to pop out, but I do not want to pop out at the end of the array, which of course is going to pop out 3 for you. But at this point in time, I want to pop out at the start of the array, which will now pop out 6 for you. And having done that, 6 will no longer be part of the collection. And let us quickly run our code to test run that. Okay, so I'm going to be hitting the up arrow key, press the enter, then check it out. You can see that 6 is the beginning initially, but if you check it out over here, 6 is no longer there. Okay, because 6 has been shifted out of the collection. I hope you understand. So that is inbuilt function for you, looking at push, pop, shift, and run shifts. Okay, so riding on along that version, we still have so many more that you can really take advantage of them. Still on Harry. Okay, let us quickly talk about okay, let's talk about splice and slice, and let's know the difference between them. We have slice and we have splice. Okay, because it can look a bit confusing, so let's look at slice and okay, first let us look at slice. What is slice function and what is it doing for you? Okay, let's say you are interested in getting slicing some part of the array for you. Okay, just because I'm done with push and pop, I'm going to select all the things I've done on them, and I will hit Ctrl ? to comment them out. Okay, then I will save my work once again. Right now I want to be looking at slice. So what does slice means to you? Let's say I want to slice an array denoted by x. All I need to do is I can now say let slice x. That's a variable name I'm just creating. You can use anything you like. Equals to x dot slice. Now by now you must understand something. Anytime you want to call a function, all you need to do is to put a dot, then you have a list of functions peculiar to that data type. Remember, x is an array, so your JavaScript understands that, and it's going to give you only the functions peculiar to an array and not a string, because s is not a string. Okay, now this is slice. Returns a section of an array. That is what slice is going to do for you, but you need to specify the start and the end of what's to be returned. Okay, so slicing is just like slicing, like you have an orange, then you want to cut it into 2. Once you cut it into 2, you give the other part to some other person, they make use of it. Okay, that of course is what we mean by slicing, and we do slice. Now let's say somebody is interested from this first element to this 40, and they are no longer interested in the last 3. So that means I want 0, I want 0, element at index 0, element at index 1, and element at index 2. That is what I want to slice. Okay, so all I need to do at this point is just to come here and put 0, then put a comma. Now look at it, start, then end. I hope you understand. So I'm starting from 0 and I want to stop at 2. Okay, then you put your question mark over there, I mean your semicolon, to terminate that line. And at this point in time, I want to hit my console.log and log out what is now in slice x. So once again, I'm going to run the code, but before then I will hit some CLS to clear the screen. Then I'm going to run the code now by pressing the up arrow key. Then you can see that I now have 10 and 4. I do not have 40 because it stopped at 0, 1. So if you want that 40, then you have to change this to 3. So by now you must understand that it doesn't stop at the number you write, rather a number before it. Okay, so look at it, we are able to slice out 10, 4, and 40. I hope you understand. Okay, that is how to make use of slice. So that is slice in a nutshell. Now let us look at splice, which of course is very similar to splice. And if you want to work with splice, you work with splice in the same version you work with slice. So you need to call on the splice. Now with splice you can use it to get some number and some elements out of x. Hope you understand. So if you say 1 for instance, that means you want, this is index 0, index 1, okay? Then you have, because this is the starting point where you want to start getting the number, okay? Then you are free to supply the second parameter here, maybe 3. That means starting from 4, you want to start getting 4, then 5, then at least you want to get 3 different numbers starting from the index 1 position, and that is what it means. So if you hit on Ctrl S to save your work and you head straight to the terminal to run your code, you will discover that we are able to slice out 4, 40, then 6. So that is, but the difference is when you make use of splice, it gets that number out for you, and that was the element I saved in here. And by the time you take a look back at your x, then you discover that those have been deleted. Those that we slice out have been deleted. But initially when you make use of slice the other time, you still get back your x without removing those elements from x. But splice on the other hand will not only slice it out for you, but it will also remove it from x. I hope you understand. So now, how do you now add some number back in? Let's say instead of, you remember with push we can put some number at the end of the array, and with unshift we can put some number at the beginning of the array. But let's say somebody say after this 40 I want you to add some number. That means 1, 2, 3. So after the index 3 you want to start adding some number. So you can do that with splice. You need to say, okay, I want to start from index 3, but over here you are going to supply 0 as the second parameter. Then you are now free to start putting in all the number or element that you want to add. So right now I want to add 3, 4, 5, 6 starting from index 3. And if you hit on Ctrl S to save your work and you run your code, then you will discover over here that I am no longer slicing out, rather I am adding some number. Now check it out. After 40 I have 3, 4, 5, 6 that were now added. So that is it. So you can see that the slice and the splice are somehow related but different. I hope you understand. So what you have just seen is inbuilt function slice and splice, which of course can become very handy when the time comes for its need. Okay, so that is it. Then one other one that we should not really go out of hurry without touching is the for each. Okay, is the for each, which of course is another inbuilt function, and it gives you the access to look through those elements in the array. I hope you understand. So, and if you check it out over here, let's make use of for each. Okay, so just because I am done with the slice and splice, I'm going to select all of this and comment it out. Then I will head straight to making use of for each. For each means you want to iterate through the element of an array. Take for instance, if you put SA and you type for each, then you are free to type anything here. I'm using elements. Okay, now please look at what I have just done. For each means I want to cycle through each and every element in X. Okay, and those elements will then become, those items there will then become elements. You understand? Or if you decide to use item, so each and every item now will be represented as item. Look at it. You can begin to put some code here to do whatever you want to do on that item. Take for instance, if I say okay, let's say let results equals to item plus 2. That means for each and every item here I'm adding 2, and maybe at the end of the day I still want to do some console.log as I have just added it. So you can see this for each is similar to using our for loop statement. Okay, now if you run the code now, you see that these are every element in the list, only that 2 has been added to each and every one of them. So that is using for each. It's like you cycling through each and every element in the array without making use of for high equals to 0, high less than or equals to. You do not need that when you are cycling through. And for each is not the only one that we have that do something similar to that. You can as well make use of maybe you can make use of map, okay, to really map map your element to something different entirely. Now check it out. If you say x dot map, now look at it, calls a defined callback function on each and every element of the array. Return an array that contains the result. Okay, so map is you trying to map out what we have here to something different entirely. So you make use of it in a similar way with that of for each. Now observe this this symbol very well. Okay, so that's what you use in the so now I want to map out. So I'm going to do the same thing like that of before. So I can now say that elements plus equals to 2, for instance. That means I'm adding whatever is in element to. So let me comment out the for each because I want to concentrate now on the map. So I haven't done my mapping. I am now logging out x to see the new changes. So I'm going to hit CLS and run the code again. And if you look at it now and check my x, you will then discover that of course I still have what I have in there before. Okay, and I think I made a mistake here. Good. So if you observe very well, you will discover here that I have done some mapping. Let's start the process of mapping once again. After you do your map, so you want to make sure that each and every element is what I am mapping, and then I am adding 2 onto it. But you do not want to forget to say s equals to. Now look at it. This is a way of saying that for each and every element here, I'm adding 2 to it. Hope you understand. And you are able to do it with the help of mapping. Okay, so you are trying to change whatever that was there before, adding 2 to it and using it to replace. So this s equals to, that means I am replacing what is already here. And if you hit on Ctrl S to save your work, CLS, and you run your code again, then you see that it has totally changed, and that of course is not bad. Okay, still on inbuilt function. Okay, I think what we have done on some inbuilt function that comes with array is enough for now. Okay, but please on your own try the index of, try all of those things on your own. So for the sake of completeness, let us look at another data type, but I will really give you an assignment of looking at of trying to work with this inbuilt function that I am supplying you from this book on working with data and co. Okay, just work on the little you can. But another one that is very important is the math library. Okay, and these are the inbuilt function that comes with math library. Let's say somebody is asking you to find the square root of number. That means you want to use the square root. You are looking for sign of number. Okay, just for the, and you want to do raised to power. So these are the stuffs that of course you should be able to do without stress, just because you have the math library there for you. Now let's work with math library. Let's say that you want to find the square root of number, and I'm going to create a function for that. Okay, over here I'm creating a function. I'm going to name my function square root. Then my function is going to take a parameter of x because I'm looking for the square root of x. Then the square root would now be, you can just say let square root equals to maths have to come first because you want to make use of that library. Dots. Now these are all the functions you should really try to find. You understand? So now look at it. We are going to make use of the math.max returns the larger set of a supplied numerical expression. So you can try to supply like an array of number over there and see what you get. Okay, but for now let's make use of power. Returns the value of a base expression to a specified power. So I'm using POW for power. You're expected to put to supply value for x and value for y. That means it requires 2 parameters. So let's say you want to do x raised to power we are looking for SQRT, that's square root. SQRT is square roots. Okay, so it's going to give us square root of a number, and I'm going to supply the number a. In my case, the number is x. I hope you understand. So at the end, I have my square root, and I can now return out the s root. Okay, which is not bad. So, but do you know that you can combine these 2 lines of code into just 1 line as professionals we do? You will just say return maths.sqrt, then you put x here. So instead of saving it in a local variable, you can just do it in 1 line. And if you really want to test this code now, that means you have to come back to your main, which is your program entry point. Then you are going to make a call, and the call is square root. That's the name of the function we just defined. So it's expecting me to supply, and what's the square root of 64? So this is going to give us some result back. The result it gives to us, I'm going to log it out to the screen, and the result then is going to be, let's run the code at this point. Now we have 8. 8 is the square root of, remember you can do your string interpolation. If you put this in the same way I used to by now, then what would square root equals to? Then you want to put this to something like this. So if you run your code again right now, you get square root equals to 8, something like that. Okay, so that's using the square root. Do you know that you can as well make use of, you can do 2 raised to the power 3 or without writing too much of code, just by calling the maths library function. And let's quickly do that. So I'm creating a function that is called power. Then maybe you want to do s raised to power y, so that means I'm expecting 2 parameters, and so these are the parameters I'm expecting to augment. So as usual, using 1 line of code, we can now say return maths dot power POW, then I put my x here, I put my y there, just like that. And at this point in time, you can now make a call in your main. Then I'm typing console.log because I want to log it out. Then I'm calling power, which is the function I have created above, and it's expecting me to supply x and y, and I'm going to supply 2 raised to power 3, which of course is 8. Control S to save my job. Remember, you can use string interpolation if you so desire. So I can now say power equals to, remember your $sign, and you want to put this in opening and closing curly braces. Then you want to run the code again. Power equals to 8, and 2 raised to power 3 is 8. Let's change it to 2 raised to power 6 and see a different answer. Control S to save your job and run it again. So 2 raised to power 6 is 64. Now I think by now you understand calling an inbuilt function, how easy it can be. So that means we won't be completing all of this, but you can complete all of those on your own just in the form of practicing. Okay, now let us look at max. Let's say you are looking at the maximum number within a range of numbers. Okay, and I will just say create a function, call it max. Okay, and maybe this function is expecting an x, which in this case is going to be an array. Okay, Then as usual, I'm using one line of code, so I want to return maths. I'm still using maths.maths. So return the larger of a set of supplied numerical expression. So I'm going to be supplying x over there. So x in this case must be an array. Okay, so as usual, I want to do my console.log because I want to log out the max onto the screen. So I'm calling on max, which of course is my user defined function. It's expecting me to supply x. X in this case is going to be an array. So I really need the biggest out of this array. So I'm going to comment out the first line, and remember, you can make use of your string interpolation by selecting all of these and ramping them in this sign. Then you can now say that max equals to, you do not want to forget your dollar sign, then you want to put all of these in angular bracket, curly braces. Hit on Ctrl S to save your job, hit on CLS to clear the screen, up arrow key to get to the function, and press enter. And right now it's telling you that max equals to none. Okay, meaning that it cannot really find the value for mass because of what you supplied. Okay, so please observe very well. I am supposed to supply just x, one parameter, and if you supply 3 and 4, that means you are supplying 2 parameters, and it will take 3 as the answer. But just because I want to supply 1 parameter, you can run the 1 parameter in a curly braces and begin to do something like this. Okay, so at the end you are still supplying 1 parameter because all the 1 parameter is in the brackets. So enough has been said about inbuilt functions of an array. Okay, now if you are of mathematical functions, you have a collection for you over here where you have the opportunity to check and read on your own on inbuilt function. So for now I'm going to be stopping on inbuilt function, and I expect that you will go through the books on your own and even learn more about inbuilt function. Okay, so and at this point in time I think we have covered the basis of JavaScript, and we really need to do something related to web application development. So in my next lecture I think we should be going into document object model, where we are going to be dealing with web browsing. But I would have loved to first treat or introduce you to JavaScript objects before moving on to document object model, so that you will have some knowledge of object-oriented programming. Okay, so you are going to join me in my next lecture, but you should be expecting either JavaScript object or document object model. Okay, so thank you once again for joining me on this lecture.